Hello, everyone. Dr. Karen Kanji here, and I'm with Debra Loshbough, one of our amazing certified TOPAKAN healing practitioners. And today we're going to talk a little about her journey, which is very, very interesting. So, Debra, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too, me too. Okay, so I know your story is very interesting. So I would love for you to give us kind of like the nitty-gritty. Like, what were you doing before you became a professional healer, and then what prompted you into that healing journey? And I know you've already, even before Topican Healing, very, very successful healing practice. So let's have you dive in and share that story with us.
Great. I was in IT. I was a senior business analyst with decades of experience, and I was doing really, really well, making good money. I probably never would have left that position except that they sent my job to another country. I didn't even believe them when they told me the name was Mauritius. And I'm like, there's no country named Mauritius. And then I saw them in the Olympics with six athletes, and I went, okay. And so I came after like, I don't know, 15 years or more at this particular place I was working at. And all my friends were there. I didn't really want to leave. I had a cushy, easy job, didn't change much. And so this is a story of let go or be dragged. And that's exactly what happened to me. And so I knew I was going to be transitioning out of this job. I didn't think it'd be a problem to find another one. In the interim, I had gone to the Atlanta School of Massage, which at the time was the number one massage school in the country. And I had done that because when I worked on people's shoulders, they were like, you're actually pretty good at this. Maybe you should go learn to do it right. And that's what I did. But I'm sure massage is a high burnout profession, and I didn't last long in it. And so I knew that this was the direction I wanted to go, even if it was only part time. I wanted to do something in the healing arts because that's where my heart was. And for my 50th birthday, my mother wanted me to travel, and I'm not much of a travel person. She is. And so I said, send me to Tampa to the Louise Hay I Can Do It conference. And she did. And I spent the whole week. I got to see Esther Hicks and Colette Baron Reed and all of these people. And I had signed up. You have one morning session, one afternoon. And a friend of mine who is deeply intuitive, like she can read you at your DNA level, tell you what your DNA is saying. She used to be in Atlanta, and I had not seen her for a while. And so I said, let's go to lunch while I'm in Tampa. And we went to lunch, and she asked me who I was seeing for the afternoon session. And I said, Brian Weiss, the past many masters, many lives. And she said, he's wonderful, and that's a good thing, but you are in a room with 100 people. So please don't go really, really deep. And I kind of took that as, okay, I'm not supposed to do that. I went back and to the conference, I crossed that one out. I didn't know anybody else on the list. And so I saw Dr. Darren Wiseman, and I saw infinite love and gratitude, and I went, I bet I could use that. And so I went to his seminar, and it was 2 hours. I can't say that there was anything that particularly moved me on the outside. Like he did a session with somebody, what is somebody who quit smoking and started again, so that wasn't relative to me. But I sat there and I cried for 2 solid hours, and I had no idea why. And then I had to sit on a bench for an hour and a half because I was just like completely drained. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm supposed to be doing it. And that's kind of who I am. I know if I'm supposed to be doing it. So I went upstairs, I signed up. I did 3 long weekends in Chicago and got certified in that. That's one of the toughest certifications I've ever had. He's very strict. And so I started doing that, and then it just became this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And meanwhile, I'm putting out like 500 resumes. I've got no response, and I have a great resume after a couple of decades doing this job. Not one phone call, not one interview, not one anything. And my dad was not well, and I had to go to Alabama and help my mother take care of him. He passed away. Then we got my mom to move here. And it would have been hard to work a full time job with her here. She was in independent living, but she was very emotionally needy. And so I couldn't just leave her all day. So I started to look for part time work. I even went to like Macy's because I worked there seasonally one time. I went to Starbucks. I couldn't get a job at Starbucks.
That's
And I'm like,
hysterical.
what? And what I heard in my head was, you said you wanted a full time healing practice. You are getting a full time healing practice. There's going to be no work on the side or anything like this. And I was supported the entire way because while I was taking care of my mom, I was having dinner at her house. You know, my groceries got thrown in with her groceries, and I had a few clients, and that was all I could handle with, as much as she needed. And then I moved on to Atlas Balancing, which I was one of probably 20 people in the US and 4 people who do training in it. That is, we call it Dao sound codes. It's a vocal sound healing where the Atlas is gently moved into place through sound remotely. And that was very profound training. I've done some trainings that I've spent $40,000 on and never used. So
Mm.
and that's fine. All of it plays into what I do today. Like, I'm amused that even my IT part plays into me with clients, because one of the things I did as a business analyst was to do requirements. I would talk to the business owner and say, what do you want? And then I would turn that around into the technical team and know how to play both sides. And so started sitting with a client and figuring out what to work on and how to approach it is like writing requirements.
Ah,
Um, so I have just learned one thing after another along the way, and I'm so passionate about what I do. What I do makes me very happy.
mm.
It's more income than my 25 years of senior business analyst, and it's so much more fun and it's so much more fulfilling. And I just, you know, love what I do. So it was a let go or be dragged, and that's how I got here.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, I know that you, like you mentioned, studied a lot of different things, and part of your gift is integrating all those things, and also what you said about being able to kind of translate everyday talk and speak and wants and needs into something organizable and searchable, even in the spiritual realm, right? And being that
Exactly.
detective, if you will, which is a beautiful gift set. What made you decide to do TOLPAKAN level one and then level two?
Well, I don't even think you know this, but I had heard your name a number of times from Jenny No. And
Oh, yes, Jenny, my friend,
I,
yes.
yes, I had followed her for a bit, and I liked her recordings and the way she approached things. And she kept saying your name. And so I think I looked you up one day, and I learned about Tolkien, and I went to the initial thing, and I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. Because I know a lot of things. And as you said, I know how to put modalities together. Um, but this was different. And what I heard was, first of all, you were saying the quiet part out loud, like talking about entities and interference and other dimensions and, all of this stuff that I knew existed. But for me, it was a little difficult to broach that sometimes with clients. So here it was, right on paper, saying the quiet parts out loud. And I was like, I've got to learn this. Plus, I'm a big fan of lists. I like these lists that I can go through and muscle test my way down. And you certainly have that. So I did that. I think there's 86 modules for Topocan 1.
Well, don't
And
scare people.
oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
12
Oh, no.
modules, but
No, I'm telling you, what I'm trying to say is it was extremely easy.
okay.
It's like you can't put the book down. And so it's well worth everything, every bit of time you spend on it, because I've not found anything like this.
Hmm.
And I've looked a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that when you heard my name from Jenny, no, one of my good friends, and then you kind of checked it out, it really resonated with you. And then, when you did the modality, you felt like, oh my gosh, this is a piece or a missing piece, at least at that
Right.
point of what you can integrate. And you love checklists, and you love, basically, you and I resonate on that level, like being the energy detective, and,
Right.
asking quality questions and be able to get answers quickly. And so it
Find
works
the
with your IT
clues.
brain too.
Right. Right. Perfect.
Yeah. That's neat. Well, and then that makes sense. That because you were already a professional healer, to be able to integrate this seamlessly in what you do. And also, we just recently had our group healing certification, which is super
Right.
exciting. You're one of the first grads, so it's so exciting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a no-brainer to do the level two.
It was, and I know that I could only do family and myself, and that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be able to do this. I'm very ethical. I'm very much in integrity. I don't do
Yes.
things that I'm not supposed to do. So I wanted to be certified so that I could charge for what I was doing because
Yeah.
as you can see, I pick up this modality and this modality and I add it in and I'm not charging anymore. Just like I want my clients to have the very best possible experience that they can have. And so I was like, this deserves this deserves its own certification. So
Oh, very cool, very cool. And that's beautiful that you've done that and kind of held your clients, in this bowl of evolving frequencies and energies, and whatever you're learning, you're kind of putting in there and seeing who needs what and how and why. And I know your clients are just, I mean, you've been doing this for a while, so they're just really connected to you. So grateful, some of the comments coming from folks. It's wonderful. So
thank
congrats,
you.
Debbie.
And the thing I really loved doing was groups. Um,
Mm,
and because I think some people are leery of groups because they're like, I don't want to catch any energy from anybody else, and that is not the way it works. That there's an actual morphogenetic field that gets created by a group being together and having the same intention.
yeah.
And there are borrowed benefits. Let's just say I was working on somebody's shoulder, and what came up behind the shoulder pain was anger. So maybe you don't have shoulder pain, but if you have anger, that's going to get processed through. So it's borrowed benefits and the morphogenetic field, and you can make it, lower priced for folks. So if they can't afford it,
Accessible.
then it's a win-win-win all the way around, and I love doing it.
Yeah, I know you're very generous that way, and that I know that you value that accessibility for people. And I agree with you. It really is a win-win-win when we can have that space. And I also feel like with high integrity, that's where that space becomes a sacred space.
That's
I
right.
know people, some of them have told me that they've been to other groups, whether live or in person or on Zoom, where they did feel whatever they were feeling, which was very uncomfortable, maybe somebody other stuff, and it may have to do with the ego of the teacher, or it may have to do just
Right.
of lack of awareness, of what could abound in these spaces, because people are opening up.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I also try to be just, you know, one of my biggest goals for my business is authenticity.
Mm,
Authenticity, compassion, integrity. Those are
I
the
love it.
three things I strive for. So I'm
Yeah.
very, you get to see me exactly as I am. There's not too many facades with me. So
And you have a
most
great
people
sense of
end up
humor. One of the
appreciating
things
that.
I appreciate about your sense of humor. Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey in Topacan level two. We did that 6, 7 month, deep dive, and really connecting every other week. Do you
Yes.
have like a couple of like your most favorite memories or positive experiences coming out of that?
Well, I think it was so huge to have Holly, to have a mentor, to have somebody in between the classes to be able to say, this sounds stupid, but I want to ask. And not that you ever made us feel stupid, but sometimes it's just you don't want to ask the master. So to have that extra coaching on the side was wonderful. This seems like a small thing, but it was really a concept I wasn't used to is what's our win for the week? Asking what was our win. That was
Yeah.
a big thing. And I've incorporated that into my life. So that was very powerful for me. Um, And just with Topocan in general, one of the things I like about it is that most modalities, I may be making a generalization here, but a lot of modalities are about clearing. And
Mm,
that's pretty much what I was doing before then. You have a modality that puts stuff in. What positive energies can we give you? And I think that's so incredibly valuable and frankly rare from what I've seen. So,
mm.
but
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
yes,
I have similar experiences. I mean, there are some modalities that's just about the resonating with the positive energies, and ones, and many, many, many about clearing, right? Clearing, clearing, clearing. And then, as you know from like the 7 point abundance assessment, one of our protocols is that sometimes people have done a lot of clearing, actually don't have a lot of things to clear left,
right,
because they did it all. But there's other things, either awarenesses they needed to understand or comprehend, and positive things that are
right,
available to them.
exactly.
Which, yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. Now here's the other question. What challenges perhaps did you experience during the level two? Because I find a lot of people evolve through their obstacles and challenges.
I did. It was I probably the most difficult part was I already had a full-time thriving healing practice. So to add in, this is serious study. This is work. This is learning, which it should be. That's what makes me appreciate it the most. But it was a little twitchy for me to find the time, and also this is very designed for somebody who's just starting out. You give beautiful parts on marketing and all of the things that everybody cringes at. And I was already in a position where I didn't I didn't really necessarily need that part because I'm part of a collective, and the business owner does all of that for me, all the scheduling, all the billing, answers all the questions. All I have to do is show up, and that's really the only way I can do what I'm doing, and I'm so happy with it. And so now I have something else I can look at. If I need, Marcus is great, and I love his stuff. So I have that on the back burner should I need it. And you can see how I pull things in from various places and learn how to integrate it. So,
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And just for people who are watching for the first time, don't know, may not know who Marcus is. So Marcus
sorry.
Bird is my business mentor from a long time ago, who now teaches a lot on resonance and marketing. So this is the piece of Topacan 2 that we integrated in, because I didn't want to see beautiful, gifted colleagues of mine struggle with
Right,
getting clients. Debbie, you're an exception in that. Yeah, I mean, you already had tons of clients, waiting lists, that kind of thing. Most people coming into even multiple certifications come to me with like no clients,
right.
because they never taught them that.
And that's
Um,
the choke part. Oh my God. I know all
yeah,
this
that
stuff.
is
What
really
do I do
difficult.
now?
Yeah, I think it's lovely that you have this thing that you love already, that is like you said, a collective where you get to do your magic. Yes, there are some restrictions here and there, right? That right now you're good with.
Yeah,
And like you said, there's always that other piece if you need it or want it in the
that's right.
future.
And there were really good exercises in that marketing piece. So, things I hadn't thought of before and things that will remain with me. So,
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Well, you probably have some case studies that
oh,
are super, Topacan case studies that are super cool. Would love to hear one or two of those.
oh, good. I get to do two. That makes me so happy. So I have a friend who's a minister, and I often do his classes. He's very much a mystic. And I was doing this class about revisioning, and we all had shared, it was 4 weeks, and the last person on the last night was like, I don't know why I'm here. You know, and he knew David, and so he wanted to come to the class, but his thing was pain, and he
Mm,
was in incredible pain. And course, being Debbie, I'm under the screen muscle testing while he's talking. I'm asking, and I just knew, I just like, I can help this guy. And so I reached out to the teacher and I said, do you think he'd be even open to this? Because this guy doesn't look like he might be open to this. And he said, I'm telling you what, I'm going to buy his first session for him. and maybe he'll give it a try. And he did. And he talks about, he's like, you're sitting behind a Zoom screen and I'm sitting behind a Zoom screen and something's supposed to happen here. I don't think so. Very much a skeptic, and I love a
You
good
love those, don't
skeptic,
you?
dude. But he had tried everything. He had been to the top neurologist at Emory University because he was at a spiritual retreat with David, and his legs went out from under him. His legs and feet went completely numb. He couldn't walk. This happened repeatedly. They put him in the hospital. They ran tests and they said, oh, it's, I probably won't say this right, Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Guillain-Barré,
And,
yeah.
uh, and they treated him for that and he got better. And a month later, he's back in the hospital. And now they're baffled because that doesn't come back once you treat it. And so he went all the way to the top of Emory and nobody could help him. And so he was open. That's how a lot of people get to us
Yeah.
is they've tried the whole medical route. And I don't have anything against Western medicine, but sometimes that's not where the answer is. And he was having a deep spiritual awakening. He grew up in a really physically abusive home full of rage, and he learned that, and he had that rage himself. And you know, there's always a story generally. And the story was that he was having this spiritual awakening, and legs represent support to me, nerves represent feelings. And so, this new spiritual awakening and this new person he was becoming, this new place he was in, could no longer support that rage. And
Mm.
so, I worked with him, and we I realized it was not really the nerves. The nerves were working okay. It was the neurotransmitters and all the emotions and all of the things behind this. And he thought it was a miracle the day he left the house to go. He's got a long driveway. He left the house to go to the mailbox and went, "Oh, I didn't take my cane." And he got better and better. And last year he was climbing ruins in Cambodia. Excuse me, this makes
Wow.
me.
That's
And
beautiful.
and he showed me his pedometer from a couple weeks ago, 16,000 steps. And so this is just a miraculous recovery that Western medicine could not help him because there's so much more behind it. And so he's my favorite testimonial. And
Oh,
then,
that's beautiful.
thank
Oh,
you.
before you go to the next one, you mentioned about rage. So, was there anything in particular that, like, we have other modalities that we can use for emotions, things like that. Was there any other particular weirdness that was going on
Yeah,
dimensionally or was it beyond emotions?
I think just trauma.
Mm,
I work a lot with trauma, and he already had a therapist and had done all of this work, but there was still, I don't know, it's the energetic level of things,
mm.
first chakra stuff, and all the emotions behind the abuse, and just all of the things that came together to create this condition in him, which turned out
Wow.
to be a gift, actually. So
Right, and you knew to ask about neurotransmitters.
I did. It's a place I go often, like with anxiety and depression and things like that. So
Yeah, nice.
I
Cool.
know
Yeah,
more
share your
medical
second one.
stuff than I wish I knew, but it works. So
Fantastic. You can go ahead and share your second one if you want.
okay, so these are other people that were kind of like, I don't know about this stuff, but his father was a chiropractor, so there was a little woo woo woven in there, and I had worked on him and his two kids. He had a child with selective mutism, which is a really tough one, and then a teenager who was very angry. And then his wife, I worked on remotely. She didn't really want to work, you know, she thought it was weird, but I could work through him. I do that with kids too. I don't work directly on the kids. I work on the parent as the surrogate for the child or the pet. In this case, it was the pet. They had this beloved Australian Shepherd named Barkley, and they lived on the outskirts, pretty far out of Atlanta. So between Atlanta and Gainesville, where the University of Georgia is. So they had taken him to the vet, and the vet had shaved Barkley. And when he did, they could see this massive tissue, this mass on the side of him, at least that big. And um, so immediately they took him to the vet, and they took him to University of Georgia, the veterinary clinic there. So you're going to get the best, right? And they did a blood draw and or a biopsy type thing, and they told the family, you should probably be prepared, and this is almost certainly cancer. And they loved this dog like nobody I have ever seen. And so he asked me, can you do anything? And I was like, I don't know. So I started looking at it, and I found out that the dog had, I call them attachments, entities, that kind of thing. And that's pretty easy for me to take care of. So I took care of it. The other thing was he had just started to where he couldn't put his foot down. And I usually see that as also a nerve. He's when they extend their leg, they're stomping on a nerve. So I worked with that. And within 2 days, that entire mass of tissue was gone.
Wow.
I know. I
Where'd it
was
go?
going,
To the 0 point?
I'm telling you. And they went back to the vet, and they were like, the vets at University of Georgia, and they were like, we don't get it. This doesn't happen, and we have no idea
Does
what's
not
happening
compute.
here. Right. And Barkley lived out a good long life, no cancer, no nothing. It was
Aw.
just attachments. And the story behind that was not that there's always a story, but in this case, the teenage son was very, very angry. And when he
Mm,
would get mad at his mom or whatever, he had all this rage, and he would go and lay next to Barkley. And Barkley took all of that rage for
mm.
him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that
yeah,
happens. Oh, wow. Beautiful story. Thank you,
thank
Debbie.
you.
Yeah. So so what kind of client is the perfect fit for you?
I like people who, first of all, don't need to understand every single thing that's going on. I kind of want you out of your head while
Mm,
you're working. I don't really want you taking notes because I work in the subconscious mind. And if you're taking notes, you're in your conscious mind. So you're trying to go
true.
back and forth. And so I like people who can just be open to the flow and to seeing what happens and not having to understand every little thing. I want people who have that modicum of faith or trust or whatever you'd like to call it. Um, I am all about creating a sacred space where people can lay down their sword, particularly men,
Mm,
and be vulnerable. I want you to have that space where you're not going to be judged or betrayed, or, you
mm,
saw me well up, I'll probably cry with you, you know? And so, as far as the things that I specialize in, I've been called a healer's healer. I do work with a lot of other healers. And I work a lot with trauma. I have a ton of trauma myself that I've mostly transmuted. It's hard work, and I've found ways to shorten the journey. Um, and so I love people who aren't afraid of the pain, that are willing to let it ooze up if it does, who are not shut down completely. And I
okay.
understand the trauma response and all that. I do really well with anxiety and depression. I do well with migraines. Um, I pretty much work on, there's a couple of things I don't work on. One of them is addiction because I'm 28 years sober and I have very definite ideas of where you should be and what you should do about that. So I don't go near it.
Okay.
So, but mostly
Fair
anything
enough.
else, I'm on it.
Okay. Well, that's really great. So it sounds like you got men, you got women. It almost sounds like you have a higher proportion of men than most female healers.
I probably do. And what's interesting about that is, like I'll be making a command and I'll say she. And I have to apologize to the men because I'm like, most people I work with are women. And so she just comes out of my mouth. Now, I've had somebody who is an intuitive tell me, well, you said that because that happened in a lifetime where I was female.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
But
too.
I
And
try
then
to be
there's children,
cognizant.
there's pets, there.
Yeah, and I try to be cognizant of people's desires and needs. I do my best to do whatever pronouns you want to use. I do my best to honor that space and to just
Yeah.
hold space when necessary. If you're needing a moment,
Mm.
um, I'm going to honor that. And I do go a little bit fast, and that's intentional because, again, I don't want you thinking about
Ah,
what I'm doing.
bypass that
So,
conscious mind. Just
exactly,
go with the flow. Yeah.
exactly.
Right. And that's probably the same reason why you don't record the calls, right? Because you don't want people in their heads too much.
That's correct. And the other thing is with my work, there's almost never any detox because your subconscious will stop when you've had enough. Like, we might be doing a specific intention and I'll think, oh, a lot of stuff might come up for that, but not much does. And it's because you're done, you're cooked. And so because your subconscious stops, and I don't know why, I don't know if that's my guides or if that's just the way it's set up, but almost never do people have any negative side effects, or detox is not a negative side effect, but you know what I mean.
Right,
So,
right. Uncomfortable. So it's kind of, it's whatever is available and, to heal and
right.
resolve
And,
without the
and,
excessive need for healing crises.
right. And then somebody say, oh, can I do one more thing? And I'm like, no, we can try it, but your subconscious is not going to give me anything. So
Ah,
it's a
okay.
safeguard.
Right, it is a safeguard. Okay, cool. Now, below this video, wherever folks are watching this, we're going to put some links below, including Debbie's bio page as well on my website. You can read more about it and the different certifications. Like I mentioned before, Debbie's also group healing certified, so she has her own groups. Maybe Debbie, you can quickly run through like, what do they do when they get there? Like, how do they connect with you?
Okay, so I've offered a 20% discount off your initial session using the discount code Dr. Karen. And when you get to that page and you choose your time,
Mhm.
um, you will get a confirmation. And in that confirmation email, which says, please read this, it's important. You will be asked to make a list of 15 or more. I have 150 items for some people, 15 things or more you'd like to look at. And we have a prompt page that can give you ideas about that. There's a little meet and greet video that tells you about the very different things I do, and it's got my friend's testimonial on it about the claiming ruins and all of that. And then if you have questions, you send your list into the email address and they give it to me and
Mm.
I process through it. And you can either put it in the priority you want it worked on, or I can muscle test to see what's the most important item on the list. So,
Gotcha. And
and
then where do they put the code, the savings code that you
when you
graciously give
sign
us?
up for the the link takes you
Okay.
right to the sign up and it'll say coupon, gift code, or discount.
Okay, great. So they put it in there and then they check out and be able to book the session with you. Great.
That's right.
Okay, awesome. Oh, that's great. Um, and if you had, one piece of advice based on all your years of experience, and for people that you've worked with, what would perhaps that be?
I would say, first of all, in the words of Gracie Allen, never put a period where God has placed a comma. You know, don't give up.
Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself and with your practitioner. Um, and I think people have this impression that it's magic. It's not
Hmm.
magic. It's not instant for me anyway. In my practice, it's layered. I always describe it as the turkey roaster after Thanksgiving, where you do your best to clean it out, but you can't get it, so you got to fill it up. Stuff floats to the top. You dump it out, you do it again, and several times. It's layered work for sure. And so
Okay.
you have to be patient. And I always say, how long did it take you to get into the woods? It might take that long to get out. So
Hmm.
patience, openness, a gentleness with themselves, and just the ability to be vulnerable would be
Hmm.
a beautiful asset. If you can't, I understand. It's interesting that sometimes when I'm doing a first session, um, it'll be shorter than I would expect for some of the topics that are coming up. And I find that it's their subconscious guarding. It's like their subconscious is going, I don't know who you are, and you're trying to get in really deep here. I'm thinking not. But by the second, I make them aware of that, which in a non-judgmental way, it's good that their consciousness is protecting them. But by the second time, that usually loosens up. So,
Mm. Yes, that's beautiful counsel. Just to be compassionate, self-compassionate, just keep going. And I have something similar where I say, well, the only way you fail is to stop.
that's right.
So you're echoing that, just keep going. And then with that sacred space and support and the compassionate support with vulnerability, that can go a really long way. And the journey can be so beautiful, as you and I know.
Right. And just release the expectations. I know it's hard when you've been unhealthy or have issues going on in your life that you've thought about it, figured it out, figured it out, and figured it out. And so often, it's not right. Like somebody will be have a weight issue and they'll like correct my metabolism, and I'm like, it's not that. I have a list of 100 and over 100 items related to weight loss or related to abundance. And so those are the things we do group from, or we can do individual, but you have to tell me how many items you want to do or how many minutes you want to spend, because we could go the whole hour. So
Right. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so for folks checking this out, we're going to put the links below that you can connect with Debra. Debbie, it's been such a pleasure to interview you. I know it's been a while since we've connected in this way, this
right.
intimate way. It's lovely, and I'm just so thrilled with the gift that you are to help us
Mhm.
bring
Thank you. I
healing
was
to the
very
world.
chatty. I didn't expect that. You must be
Good.
good.
That's
But
perfect. Yay.
I'm
All
so
right,
delighted to
so
get started on this path and to welcome in whoever wants to show up.
awesome. Thank you, dear soul.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, and everyone, if you love this, give it a thumbs up. Would love
Infinite
to.
love and gratitude.
Yeah. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Bye.